All right, thank you very much. What we're going to talk about now is the perspectives from around the world with some editors of AV publications, and including Florian, who I expect to find his way onto the set as well. We have with us Anna Mihaya, and I think I got that part of your name right, but you're with Top 100 Connect in South America. And Thomas, is it Richard? Yeah, that was going to be too simple to get it done that way, but he is from Systems Integration Asia. And of course, we have Florian, who you've seen through the morning, and Invidis is also a publisher. So let's start with Anna.
Of course.
Can you give me some sense of what's going on in South America? You are in Colombia.
Yes,
But
that's right.
I suspect you're looking all through Latin America as to what's happening and what the impacts are, not only of COVID, as we said, we don't want to just talk about that, but it is sitting on top of pretty much everything that's happening this year.
That's right. Yes, well, for context, I'll let you know that I work for a company called Avi Latinoamerica that is a digital magazine, and it covers all Latin America from Miami to Argentina, and including Brazil, which is a Portuguese-speaking country. What we know and what we've talked with entrepreneurs of digital signage for now, they have told us that even though COVID-19 in some countries hasn't caused complete closure in businesses, it has created a huge slowdown. In Colombia, for example, we've been in quarantine since March, and we're still in quarantine. And we're going to be in quarantine until the 30th of August, and it's probably going to be extended. And in most countries, this is a similar panorama. This is the same perspective for many countries. What they've told us, integrators and businessmen that work in digital signage, is that since many companies that are their customers in digital signage have closed down because they're gone bankrupt, because of the quarantines, they have been forced to close down. Many new projects have basically halted. So there are no new projects. Some companies have managed to stay afloat with existing contracts, most of them in banking sectors. Since most offices are closed, corporate sector is basically stopped. Retail sector has been keeping digital signage working mostly in most countries, and pharmacies have been continued to be open. So there has been a major slowdown in some sectors, but not in all of them. Retail, banking are probably the ones that have been keeping all digital signage companies working.
Right. Okay, Thomas, what are you seeing out there and hearing? I guess because you're probably locked in your office.
Hi, good evening, Dave. As you know, I'm based in Singapore, and of course, we cover whole of Asia, so that's quite a stretch, all the way from China to Indonesia. So overall, the feel is that there is, as what Anna and the rest of the world is facing, there is definitely an impact on the AV industry as a whole. But some bright spots are being seen in terms of using signage as more than what it used to be in terms of temperature scanning, facial recognition, SS controls. So some of the SIs are actually putting together packages or readjusting what they had already installed to help some of these companies meet those obligations, health safety obligations. But one of the interesting things that recently was announced in Singapore was that the government is going to transit to facial recognition identification program that will eliminate the need for IDs. And this is, of course, to assess for government officers and to services. And this is all part of Smart Nation initiative. But one of the points that caught my attention was that they are hoping that this facial recognition will become like a default identification in the commercial and retail establishments. And I think that gives some interesting possibilities, especially in the commercial and retail aspects, where uh, the facial identification can be tuned in together with maybe messages to you, retail messages or promotions and all that. And that is what I'm hearing, that those positive possibilities might happen. So that is one of the things that's actually happening now. It will take a while, of course, for the commercial and retail establishments to get into the act, but they are hoping for it to be the facial recognition to be actually a government-controlled infrastructure for safety purposes.
Do you think the acceptance and the adoption of that is easier in parts of Asia because uh, things like facial recognition for commerce is now reasonably standard in China, and I guess percolating out from there, that they're just kind of used to it, and they also live in societies that maybe don't have the same objection to being tracked?
Absolutely, Dave. Absolutely, you're right. We may not see that possibly in India, but definitely China leads the way in this, and in Singapore, I think there will be an amount of support for it as well, because a lot of effort is being put in getting everyone into the digital era, so to say, and I think there is a certain level of trust in the government. So I think they will be able to push it through. I can't say that for all the countries, but definitely in China, Singapore, the possibilities are there. Yes.
Florian, what are you seeing in Europe?
The GDPR.
I,
The GDPR issue, it's obviously changing the whole thing over here. So we're not allowed really to, to use facial recognition, to use cameras and everything. So this is really limiting how we can use this surveillance technology after COVID-19. But in general, obviously, the market, we're 6 months now into the pandemic, and many things are back to normal, at least on the surface. Obviously, when you turn on the news in the morning, it's the opposite of on any kind of normal, and there are some also quite negative news coming lately again. So many integrators have found a new way. I mean, Dave, we discussed it a few times in the past months. These digital A-frames and some other things, were quite popular in between when regulations were very, very strict. So you were only allowed to have a few people in your store, in your office or so. Most of them are currently not in use, but unfortunately, most of us expect a second wave coming in fall, maybe even earlier. And we see some countries like Spain or Belgium or so, they're already tightening restrictions again, and you not only have to wear a mask all over the place, but they're also limiting the numbers of people in the buildings and in the offices and everything. So we see these digital A-frames and all this stuff coming back. So it's an on and off thing, and unfortunately that's probably one of the stuff which COVID-19 will be part of our life for the next 12 months or so. So you need to be flexible, but the most positive thing, to be honest, is that there's a positive awareness now for data. And in the past, we always need to convince retailers and corporations, about collecting data, not collecting data where you can, but where it really makes sense, where you can really make a difference. And this topic is now easier. It's not gone, but it's easier. So it's not so much of convincing them. You need to have sensors. You need to use IoT to really manage crowds and everything. So now it's more about, how can we do it right, and obviously how can we do it efficiently. What is the cheapest way of doing it?
We're all editors, so we are therefore recipients of an endless torrent of press releases and other public relations efforts from different vendors, and we have a bunch of vendors, I suspect, listening today. My point of view is I'm getting so much of the same thing from so many different companies, and nowhere near enough differentiation between all of these new gadgets, whether they're thermal sensors or sanitizer kiosks or on and on and on. What would you say to vendors right now in terms of if you're going to pitch me, if you're going to send me stuff, if you're hoping to get some awareness of what you have that you need to do? Anna.
Well, I'm thinking that what Florian just said, the differential element right now is data collection. for most clients in Latin America, that's probably the key aspect of how you can sell a digital signage system, data collection system. So I would go that way. If your system and your solution has capabilities of data collection, well, tell me what they are, tell me how they work, tell me specifically in how can I apply it in my business, and that could be a lot better for improving sales. Of course, there's an issue here, and I would like to mention it because it's quite important in Latin America. The acquisition of new equipment is hard, it's complicated, because the devaluation between the Latin American currency and the US dollar is very big. It's very big. So that is probably one of the most complicated issues when you're trying to convince a client to buy or update new equipment, because the cost can be significant. And in post-COVID-19 era, it will be difficult to update because, of course, many companies are trying to resurface from a bankruptcy situation or from a very low income situation. So that is very important, I believe, to make vendors understand that cost in Latin America is a very big limitant.
That's particularly interesting because, as Florian mentioned, the digital A-frames that are out on public sidewalks, they're already sort of mothballed to some degree, and maybe they'll come back in use. But in Latin America, if it's a significant capital investment to buy something like this, I suspect they really want to know I've got 4 or 5 years use out of this thing
Yes,
reliably.
absolutely.
But Thomas, what are you hearing?
Same. I think it's important to highlight to have clarity as to what really, how is this going to benefit the user? How is it going to play in a long-term role for them, and how they can actually use this data or the system itself to create revenues, basically, at the end for themselves. So yes, you're right. I do get bombarded by quite a number of digital signage solutions as well, or the latest with scanners and so forth. But when they want to sell this to the potential clients, I think it is critical, like what Anna and Florian are saying, is that to be clear and to understand their issues and to pitch it right as to how this is going to help them.
Yeah, Florian, I get so many of these things, and they are just things in most cases. You know, here's our version of this thing. Please buy it. I'm guessing you're saying that's not enough.
Well, you can imagine, you know me quite well. Absolutely, the hardware is not really solving it. It's a solution, obviously, it's analytics to get insights out of this one. It's very easy to put up some sensors, and unfortunately, the majority of integrators are just focusing on hardware because it's a comfort zone. They love to install something and maybe even maintain it. But the magic of collecting data and analytics is really getting actionable insights of this one. And it's not putting as much sensors as possible in a certain spot, but really only measure what really makes sense and where you can change something. So it's really selling solutions and talking with your customers and really on a regular basis. Because often they're just let alone. They get the solution and then live with it. And most of the time there's not enough competence on the client side. And so you really need to walk the customers through and change something, define the 5 most important pain points, try to solve them, show this with data, and then go to the next thing. But don't leave them alone. And I think it's so important because it also helps integrators really to sell in more software, to sell in more content, and really be a trusted advisor of the clients. And too many of the integrators are just focusing on hardware.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're running down on time. I wanted to ask one more question of each of you with a quick answer. If we set aside COVID-19, if things were normalized, looking into 2020 and 2021, is there a particular technology, whether it's physical hardware or an advance in web services or whatever, that excites you and makes you think this is where this is all going? Anna?
I would go with interactiveness because it's no longer just seeing a screen with content. It's more about if I can approach it and see catalogs and even purchase items from digital signage system. That would be, for me, the most exciting feature any digital signage system can offer me right now.
Okay. Thomas.
Sorry, Dave. I'm going to agree with Anna as well, because I think
That's
really
cheating.
the interactivity part is there's more to it, of course. We know of a company in Indonesia that's going to launch a LED together with a phone, where you can use a phone to communicate directly to the LED, and it will actually follow you through your activities within that retail space. So a lot more of this engagement, which I think will capture the interest and attention of people. But like what Florian and everyone else is saying, the back end of it is very critical. How is this all coming together? How is this all going to be, the data, how is it analyzed, and how is it going to help the clients? I think that is very, very critical.
And
Absolutely.
please break out of the silo. Don't only look when you sell your customer signage. Don't only look, that's the only solution he needs. It's really this frickless, this seamless user experience. Include mobile. Think of all these other technologies, because for the client, for the end customer, it needs to be one experience. And too many in the industry are still focused on this one. And if we wouldn't talk about COVID-19, we would talk about digital experience platforms. We talk about seamless customer experience, and also now employee journeys. Don't forget, just don't think about the customers, but also, what is the office of the future? We will talk about it tomorrow a lot, but that's essential. Everything has changed, and we really need to look, how can we adapt existing things to the new normal?
And I would encourage, when you mention workplace, I would encourage people to look beyond the office itself. There's a vast opportunity in the warehouses, the production facilities, all those places that don't have ways to communicate effectively with their employees. And digital signage is a very simple, highly effective, highly visual answer to that. All right. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. What's your name again? Florian? And I think it's back to you now.
Thank you.
Well, we have
Stefan.
We have a small film prepared, a small film, and we will start with the film pretty soon. And after that, Dave, you will come back for a big, fantastic panel with some great experience, and then we will talk about solutions for the new normal, and quite fascinating technologies. So stay tuned, please stay here.